Hello, my name is Jason Leahy, Executive Director of the Illinois Principals Association. Thanks for joining me for this IPA talk. Grateful to have with me Dr. Tony Sanders, our State Superintendent of Schools. Thanks, Tony, for making a return trip. Apparently, these aren't too painful, right? That you're willing to get back into it. I mean, I'm not like a Goldie Hawn or Simon Sinek type of guest, or I guess I'm the host in this case, but you've had a couple of nice starts to your fireside chats that you've done here over the last, several months.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, it's good to see you. And I'll always do these chats with you, whether they're painful or not.
Very
I'm more than
good.
happy. No, they're not painful. I
Well,
always enjoy time with you.
I
The
appreciate
fireside
it.
chats really was, I had a lot of thinking about coming into this role in a way to engage with principals and with superintendents and with legislators. I thought about a podcast, but I thought, well, that's your thing.
Yeah.
You already have your IPA talk. And then you got Courtney Orzel and other people that, and Kate Kwasny that have their podcast. And I'm like, I don't know that I need to do another podcast. So the fireside chat was just another way of maybe doing it every few months and trying to get some people that would be recognizable to principals, superintendents, and legislators. So I'm glad you attended the Simon Sinek and the Goldie Hawn one. I hope you enjoyed them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and you, being our state superintendent, bringing those heavy hitters, that's a lot of fun to be a part of that. So sure, grateful for those opportunities. Well, Tony, obviously you got a few things I want to chat about here. Maybe talk a little bit about session since today's date's April 30th, and we're into the last month. But before getting into that, you put out an important communication related to FAFSA. We know that with the U.S. Department of Ed's had a little bit of trouble with the rollout of the new FAFSA form and the system that they've tried to put into place to streamline things a bit. And I know that's caused a little bit of heartburn in the field, especially since we do have that as a graduation requirement for kids. With the intention of getting kids, with the important information that they should want to have about, what type of student aid they can receive to pursue school beyond high school. So, but also now taking into account the issues that the U.S. Department of Ed has had with FAFSA here in the spring. Can you talk to us a little bit about where you're positioning, trying to help schools out related to that here through the spring semester?
Absolutely. Thank you for letting us have that conversation. So, as FAFSA completion is a requirement in the school code for students to complete. It was a big initiative, obviously, of Governor Pritzker. It's the right thing to do. We should all want kids to complete their FAFSA. But you're right.
And for full disclosure, IPA supported that bill, by the way.
I think it was universally supported when it passed. The federal government notes that makes a huge difference in college going rates for a state if they mandate the FAFSA. It's good public policy, but the issues with the simplification process has been obviously noted throughout the state and throughout the country. And I'm really grateful that we have a governor and others who are willing to have the conversation about making some modifications to this year's process so that we're not keeping kids from walking across the stage. We don't want large numbers of kids not being able to walk across the graduation stage because of the lack of completion for something that was not their fault. And so I was really appreciative that the Illinois Student Assistance Commission, the governor's office, and others, we all came together to problem solve this. And so we did send guidance out to the field, to principals and superintendents, to counselors saying, there's a new way you can go in and auto waive students from this requirement. But while we did that, Jason, I want to make it clear, we still want kids to complete the FAFSA. We're going to continue to push out information to school districts and to students and ask them to help us connect with your graduating seniors if they didn't complete the FAFSA. We're going to put more resources out there so that those students can provide us their contact information. We want to make sure that we follow up with each of these students and ensure that they at least understand the importance of completing the FAFSA, even though we're waiving it as a graduation requirement.
Sure, appreciate that, Tony. And I'm guessing individuals, if they have questions or, they can go to the ISB's website, find out more about what the process and procedure needs to be moving forward.
And it'll be, depending on when this is released, it'll be in my weekly message this week. we'll continue to communicate regularly about this in the weekly message and in other venues. So we'll absolutely put things on our website.
Great. Appreciate that. All right. Well, let's move on, talk a little bit about legislative session. We're in that period of time where obviously a lot of things are moving quickly. We're now where bills have, transferred from one chamber to the other. And, we're seeing where some things that we were working with maybe have not made the move. So those are, at least for now, though nothing ever truly dies, right? In Springfield, where legislation is concerned, it can always come back. But we're starting to now get focused in on the things that have actually moved. I do know, Tony, you and members of the ISB team and members of the board have been to the Capitol several times here over the last few weeks talking about the state budget and other things. So just curious about what you're all paying attention to right now, what you're working on, and watching as we head into May and the end of session.
Absolutely. So budget is the number one thing, Jason, as you know. When coming in a year where we see a decline in our federal ESSER dollars as they start to, be tapered down and be used up, it's time to. There are several areas where we really want to see the state continue investments, and so the state board's budget proposal included, of course, $350 million for evidence-based funding, an increase in funding for mandated categoricals, which are all those other elements that cost district money but are not included in the formula, like special education, private tuition, orphanage line item, transportation. We want those to be funded at the same level as last year, which is an increase in cost for the state. We have a proposal, obviously, to continue programs such as the principal mentoring and teacher mentoring. We have proposals for new money for students who are new to our school systems coming in from another country. We have a lot of newcomers in this state that we're trying to support. Currently using federal dollars, we really like to see a commitment from the state to support those students. So we continue to advocate on behalf of the state board's budget proposal. And that's what I testified to in both the House and the Senate appropriation hearings. And we continue to engage in those ongoing budget negotiations, recognizing we're heading into a really tight fiscal year. So just to level set expectations, I think it's pretty well known, but this is going to be a tight fiscal year for the state of Illinois. They'll make it through, but it's going to be tight.
Yeah. Well, and as typical, we probably won't see the final version of anything until we get closer to the end, is usually the case, the way that we work things here in the state of Illinois. And obviously appreciate the advocacy related to EBF. That always, for us, is number one on the list to make sure we have dollars there. And of course, we're interested in funding for things like new principal mentoring, the principal pipeline program, and those types of things that we've seen real success related to supporting school leaders in their schools and all of that. Beyond that, Tony, and maybe nothing immediately comes to mind here, which I sure understand with everything moving, but just curious about any other policy related things that ISB's dealing with right now at the Capitol.
Absolutely. So several. One is we have a bill currently pending that would allow community colleges to issue professional educator licenses to individuals who already have a bachelor's degree. This is just a good public policy if we can get the legislature to agree to it. It does not allow community colleges, I have to be very clear on this, it does not allow community colleges to grant a bachelor's degree. What this would do is just allow, if you have a candidate in your school that has a bachelor's degree and is just lacking a few credits towards their professional educator license, it would allow them to go back to a community college and earn those hours and to seek the credential then. It's similar to other professions that allow this. Like, you think of public accounting, you can get your bachelor's degree and then go back to a community college to get your CPA endorsement. Similar thought process. And this is just a way to help individuals that want to be teachers to go back and earn that credential using a local resource that's more easily available and more affordable for them locally. So that's probably the biggest policy change that we're seeking this year from the agency that is still very active at the Capitol.
Well, I'll just offer, I think us looking at these pipeline related things as creatively as that and trying to do it in-house, or when I say in-house, within the state of Illinois, makes some sense, just because if we don't support it, then our individuals here are going to be looking for those opportunities out of state, which they do exist. And then through reciprocity, bring those licenses, right, or certificates right back into the state.
That is, Jason, you hit the nail on the head. There's so, that is a big issue that we have in this state is, and I'm hoping higher education sees this as an issue. This is not about removing, dollars from 4-year institutions. They're losing those dollars already for individuals with bachelor's degrees that want to get their certification. They're typically not going back to a 4-year university to get them. They're either not going back to school, or they are, as you said, going to another university in another state that just quickly prepares them to take a test. And I don't know that's in the best interest of the teaching profession.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Well, anything else as far as capital is concerned, Tony, you'd like to share about?
Absolutely. So another one would be, there's a charter school bill that's currently pending. As you know, Jason, if a local school district currently declines to take on a charter school and the charter school appeals it to the state board, we used to have the Charter School Commission, but now the State Board of Education will take on and run state-run charter schools if a local school district declines them, and then somewhere along the way, the Charter School Commission approved them, then we end up running the charter schools. Current law does not allow for an off-ramp of that. So if, when a charter school comes back up for renewal every 3 to 5 years before the state board, there is no statutory authorized option for that charter school and their local district to engage in any kind of negotiation to bring it back into the local school district. And we have a bill pending right now with Senator Castro that would allow the local charter schools and the local school boards to engage in a period of negotiation, or at least have the conversation about whether a currently state-run charter school should return and be a part of a local school district. When the charter school law passed, the intent was that charter schools would be hubs of local innovation and could be, something that you could, little lab schools basically to determine if, their practices, if you give districts the flexibility, could that work with a charter school? They're supposed to bring those ideas into their home school district, but there's no way for that to happen currently if it's a state-run charter school. And so we're trying to give an on-ramp so that a district could negotiate, or at least have a conversation with that charter school about coming back into the fold of a school district and not being maintained as a state-run charter school.
Yeah.
So
which I think
that's another proposal.
Which makes a lot of sense for sure. I would say in order to do that, in order to fulfill the intended results, what we were looking at with regards to charters. Yep. Well, we know there are a lot of bills out there, Tony, that we could probably get into, and I'm sure things ISBE's tracking as well as IPA. But in respect of your time, one of the last things I wanted to be sure to chat with you briefly about was the literacy plan, which is something that we're very excited about here as far as the organization goes. We've been working with members of your team and then also with other school leaders that have really done some good, deep work related to student literacy moving forward and making sure that good things are happening for students. And we're sure to be encouraging school leaders to get on top of this, because if we don't choose to do it, we have members of the General Assembly that are poised to make sure that it happens. And we would prefer to dictate the terms for that rather than do it through, a blanket piece of legislation or such. But just kind of curious about your thoughts with where things sit right now and what we could be expecting in the field here moving forward in the weeks and months ahead.
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to, we have the team at ISBE here has been doing a great job on many different areas, but the literacy plan is really a stellar piece of work where, they came as a result of a lot of feedback and a lot of engagement with the field. And so I think if districts and principals are not yet looking at it, they really need to be looking at it. To your point, while there is no current mandate to make any shifts locally,
there sure could be.
There absolutely, the conversation, the literacy plan literally came about as a result of proposals that would have implemented and imposed specific curricular mandates on school systems. And we stood with all the associations and saying we need to continue to be a local control state. It needs to be a locally adopted curriculum that districts use, and the literacy plan was a step in the right direction. So to your point, ISB continues to support the comprehensive literacy plan. We've asked for funding to support its rollout. We've put out toolkits now. We just presented to the board a bunch of toolkits for districts and principals to take a look at. If you're trying to figure out how to incorporate that into your local school, there's a lot of tools out there now on isb.net that will help you figure out that process. And then finally, we're doing surveying the field as to current resources and curriculum materials that are being used. So that survey's out there live as well at this point. So a lot of work happening around the comprehensive literacy plan. It's going to continue to be a focus of ours at the state board for the next multiple number of years.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things that I appreciate first and foremost, just with regards to the plan. And I know you've heard me say it probably multiple times now, and I've shared it with others, with regards to just the plan in and of itself, it's one of the highest quality pieces of work that I've really ever seen the agency produce. And there've been obviously other things, but just in terms of talking about the research base of the topic of literacy, but then also helping really think through the implementation. I mean, it's the plan in of itself is also just a good study with regards to good school improvement practices. If you read that and the way that it lays it out, talks about the stakeholders, the roles of the different stakeholders, provides plenty of tools and resources there. So all of that is really good. And then also providing tools here really early, helping school districts process the various curricular options that are going to be provided by the vendors, right? It's like, how do you sort the wheat from the chaff, moving forward? Because there's a lot of chaff out there that people are just taking whatever they've got. They're slapping, science of reading.
A sticker on it.
Yeah. Right. That doesn't necessarily necessitate high quality. So I know those types of tools that have been produced and will continue to be are particularly helpful. So kudos to the team with regards to that. And obviously appreciate the support with the General Assembly and saying, listen, let us carry the ball here. Let us sit here with the agency and working in collaboration with the school districts to get it done. Because while it's, not everybody's thinking about it yet, I do feel like there's some critical mass that's building related to the plan.
Well, legislators, I think understanding, like we've understood for years, that this is a second order change.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to explain the why behind it and move hearts and minds. This is not you order districts to do it and suddenly our literacy scores jump up significantly. You have to have an understanding of it. There's a lot of books out there that would help teachers and principals with the shifts that are necessary in instruction to move to science of reading, quote unquote.
Right.
But it's a lot of great work. It's going to take us a couple of years, obviously, to implement, but it's the right work to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to your point, it aligns perfectly with our strategic plan and our vision that every school and every district needs to be engaged in continuous learning and continuous improvement.
Yeah,
that is one of the values that we hold firm to here at the state board.
So as we look to come to a close here, Tony, anything else just from the agency's perspective? Any remarks here for our folks in the field as we come up to the end of the year? Just anything we want to make sure that we cover before we end our time?
Absolutely. So just a few things. I think, for those who have not read the weekly message on the work that we plan to do around our assessment and accountability system, I would encourage you to go read that. We'll be engaging in this work over the next few years of rethinking, the cut scores and rethinking our accountability system in a way that hopefully will stand the test of time and will be a good outcome for many future generations of schools that have to live under accountability system. So that's a big lift that we have going here at the state board that we're just really beginning those conversations. So pay attention to that as you move forward. Other than that, it's been my honor to have this job over the last year. I've been in just a little over a year. I visited, I think at this point, over 60 different schools, school districts in the state. And just to get out in the field and see the hard work that of our principals and our teachers and our superintendents is really uplifting. That's why, if you don't follow me on social media, you don't have to, but I would love it if you'd follow me, just because I'm trying to use that platform as a way to uplift the work that's happening across all of our wonderful schools and systems in this state. We have a good public education system that needs to be uplifted and recognized for their hard work. So as we come to a close, I know that this is the busiest time of the year for our principals here. You got your testing after spring break. It is nonstop. And I just want to encourage you to take care of yourself as you come into these final few weeks, and know that we're here to partner with you in anything that we can do to make your life better.
Well, appreciate those comments, Tony. And I will say the comments with regards to the quality of work that's happening in our schools is not just rhetoric. I mean, you can look at some data and some facts. One of those most recently is the fact that Illinois has caught itself back up, like one of 3 states that's already caught itself back up to pre-pandemic levels in terms of overall student achievement. That speaks highly of the quality of work that our people are doing out in the field. So that's not just saying something to give a kudo that's hollow. That is a real thing.
You're absolutely right. You look at the U.S. News and World reports, and how they rank public education. Illinois is always in the top 10. We're knocking it out of the park on multiple measures. And so we have to pause and celebrate that we are doing good things for kids every day. Always do better, but we need to celebrate the fact that we are doing really good things for kids.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Dr. Tony Sanders, State Superintendent of Schools. Appreciate your time as always. My name is Jason Leahy, Executive Director here at IPA. And as always, if there's anything that IPA can do for you, don't hesitate to give us a call or check us out on the web at ilprinciples.org. Take care.